Chapter 6, Lessons Learned. HQB. To me, HQB means high quality bargain. Invest in high quality businesses, selling at a bargain price relative to its intrinsic value. In this 2015 edition, I have a greater appreciation for the operating margin and the net profit margin of a business than I did in 2010. Of the cases presented in this book, notice that J&J, Johnson & Johnson, has the most impressive track record year after year in its profit margins. It is also the dividend and dividend yield leader of this group of businesses. Price versus value. Price is the market price that others pay. Value is the estimate of its true intrinsic value based on the real cash returns that it will produce. In this 2015 edition, I have proven that buying at a significant bargain worked in 4 of the 5 cases. I must also admit that I overestimated the growth potential of Jacobs Engineering, JEC, in my original estimate of 2010. You may recall that I used an assumed FCF, or free cash flow, annual growth rate of 11% for the first 10 years and assumed 0% growth from years 11 to 15. I now realize that I was too optimistic in my growth assumptions. That was my mistake. At the time, I thought that the global economic growth for JEC services would bounce back from the Great Recession. Macro forces. Some businesses are more prone to economic downturns. They are like ships that cannot sail through ocean storms. In the JEC example, I used an assumed FCF annual growth rate of 11% for the first 10 years, and I was too optimistic in my growth assumptions. On the flip side, I underestimated the business potential of United Health Group, both qualitatively and quantitatively. I used an assumed FCF annual growth rate of 7% for the first 10 years, and I underestimated the business potential of United Health to manage the forecasted changes talked about prior to passage of the Affordable Care Act. The Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, PPACA, commonly called the Affordable Care Act, ACA, or colloquially called Obamacare, is a United States federal statute signed into law by President Barack Obama on March 23, 2010. Together with the Health Care and Education Reconciliation Act amendment, it represents the most significant overhaul of the U.S. healthcare system since the passage of Medicare and Medicaid in 1965. As a result of these changes, it is clear that the healthcare industry is evolving towards more value-based healthcare. Hospitals and primary physicians will transform their practices financially, technologically, and clinically to drive better healthcare, better health outcomes, lower costs, and improve their methods of distribution and accessibility. Competitive forces on brands. Some businesses are very sensitive to competition and can have their customers taken away easily by a new version of a product or service. Johnson & Johnson brands hold a significant share of the consumer and pharmaceutical markets. J&J is also the world's largest developer and manufacturer of medical treatment and diagnostic services. J&J owns highly successful brands such as Tylenol, Band-Aid, and Neutrogena. The acquisition of Pfizer's consumer health division added respected brands such as Listerine, Lubriderm, Visine, and Neosporin. This further solidified Johnson & Johnson's dominance in consumer health care. On the flip side, Molson Coors has notable brands. However, the beer industry is seeing more competition from large company global competitors, as well as a proliferation of local craft beers and ciders. Molson Coors has a portfolio of more than 65 strategic and partner brands, including signature brands Coors Light, Molson Canadian, and Carling. Is this a situation of having too many alternatives and substitutes? What is the biggest threat to Molson Coors' profitability? The answer is competitive substitutes and competitor pricing. The main competitors of Molson Coors are the Coca-Cola Company, PepsiCo, Dr. Pepper Snapple Group, Groupe Danone World Water Division, Nestle Waters, Red Bull, Cott Corporation, Ocean Spray Cranberries, Diageo, Anheuser-Busch InBev, Suntory International, Kraft Foods, Penrod Ricard, and Constellation Brands.